What's up, everybody? Here's your Uncle Ed. So on this edition of Twins, just kidding, by the way, in case we don't look anything alike. But listen, today, I have a really special guest, and this is going to be so much fun because if you haven't heard about him, you're going to hear about him. He's about to fly to New York to film his second series he's got this new, it's actually really, really exciting. It's a cooking show. If you haven't heard about him, it's Steve Cook's
Stuff. Steve Cook's stuff. So
right?
It's right there.
But let me tell you, it's just not just your regular stuff. When you watch this show, you will see. Now, this is a prime example of somebody turning something that they were passionate about a long time ago into a hobby, and then a hobby turns into a cooking show. So thank you very much for allowing me to spend some time with you, Steve, because I've been wanting to do this interview for a long time since I met you. And I just find everything you've done just from your origin story just to be fascinating, how you took this little hobby and turned it into flying to New York, and now you have a cooking show that is about to go into its second season.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about you and about how this all came about.
Yeah, so basically I'm a home chef. Okay. I left for the Marine Corps when I was 18, got out, became a Marine, got stationed out in San Diego.
So were you cooking in the military in San Diego?
I was not a cook in the military.
Okay.
I was actually a combat correspondent.
Oh, wow.
And so, but I've always had a passion for food.
You just always loved cooking.
Yeah.
Now, did you grow up where there was always cooking going on and everybody's congregated into the kitchen?
Yeah, we cooked a lot. So we were a farming family, so we raised a lot of our own, meats that we ate.
Makes sense now.
Vegetables. We fished a lot, so we would always go out in the ocean, catch our fish, and have a big, fish fry or something like that on a Sunday night.
I love it.
So, and that translated to when I was in the Marine Corps. I lived out in town, and I would have friends that lived in the barracks on base or whatever. Holidays would come around, and not everyone was able to go home on leave. So at Thanksgiving, I'd say, "Hey, I'm gonna, smoke a turkey and have 30 people over to my little, one-bedroom apartment." But we were all just together.
To smoke a turkey and have 30 people around.
Smoke a turkey and bring 30 people
Why
over.
not?
Yeah. So I've just always been into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And look, I could totally relate because, in Latin families, you see this a lot. Everybody congregates around the kitchen and, grandma starts cooking one dish and then all of a sudden you get the 30 people around you. So I started cooking when I was 7 years old, thanks to my mom and my grandma. So I could totally relate.
I was the guy that, over the years people would say, "Oh, this is so good, you should open a restaurant." And I was always like, "I don't know about a restaurant.
You should cook for a living."
Yeah, right. I'm really enjoying this. I don't know. I know restaurant life is a different life. And I've always worked behind the camera as a photographer and a filmmaker. So I got into production of shows from behind the camera. So working on shows for Food Network and HGTV and getting a sense for
helps.
what the television and movie side of
and the setup and how to do it
all
and
that.
right?
Yeah. So that's where I've always been into it. And then around COVID time, obviously everyone's at home and I'm cooking even more and more, and I'm able to photograph the meals and the dishes as I made them as a professional photographer and make them look really good.
Okay.
Throw them up on social media, and eventually someone said, "Hey, could you deliver?" I said, "Sure, I deliver." And
the answer is always yes.
Yeah, of course. And so that turned into a 12-person dinner, and I went to their house and I brought my own pots and pans and I cooked them dinner, and I've done that multiple times for that family and now several other families. And around last August, I saw an ad on Facebook for, have you ever wanted your own cooking show? Do you have what it takes? Send us a reel, send us a demo of yourself. And having all of my own equipment, having my own studio, again, from behind the camera, I set up the camera, talked into it, talked about my dishes, cut it together, and next thing you know, I'm in New York shooting a pilot.
Wow.
They run the pilot and they say, if it scores, well with the audience, we'll give you a season. I got a season 1, 12 episodes. That just finished running, and now I'm headed back to New York to shoot 12 more episodes.
So I guess COVID was a blessing in disguise. It really helped you kind of skyrocket, yeah?
It helped transition.
Yeah.
It helped transition. The skyrocketing part, we'll see. Still to be determined.
We're still working on that.
I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Hey,
there.
you know what? I'm always aspirational, right?
Yeah.
So,
I am too.
I think in skyrocketing terms.
Yeah. I'm a very optimistic person, and I like to think that about skyrocketing as well. But things happen, and we pivot. Based 100%. On things in your personal life, professional life, or societal. And so for me, always being a home cook, home chef, home cook, having the opportunity to put myself out there in front of the camera, where I've always lived behind.
Right.
And the reactions were great. I mean, the producer on the show, when I shot the pilot, asked me where I went to culinary school. I said, I've never even bussed a table. You know, I worked in the family business.
Casa Arroz con Pollo University.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but you know, it doesn't mean don't have a passion for food, and I'm a good study, and I watch all the shows, and I guess you could say I just absorbed everything that I've
And you absorb the nuances of how to do it and how to say certain things and positioning and food, where to plate it and how to plate it, right?
Yeah.
I would think all those things. So you had a leg up in that sense because you worked behind the scenes for the Food Network.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, the main thing is just being me. I mean, I call it Steve Cooks Stuff because when people tend to ask you, like, what's your signature dish? What do you make? And I said, I make everything. Like, I might make ribs tonight and then eggplant parm tomorrow, you know, and or what do you want? I'll make it for you. If I've never made it, I'll give it a try and we'll see how it goes, you know. But I'm confident enough to be able to kind of work with the ingredients and all that. And when I do my show, I explain it very, you know, I don't pretend to be anything I'm not. I'm still just Steve Cooks Stuff. And so
you come across very authentic, Steve. And I saw a few of the episodes, and that I think is what really attracts people in the viewership. Is when you make things very authentically and you don't make it rocket science, or you need to have, you know, a degree in chemistry in order to do and duplicate his recipes. I think that's really the quote unquote, pun intended, recipe for success. To take it to the next level. Now, by the way, guys, just literally go to SteveCooksStuff.com and you'll check it out, besides going to, you know, eatthis.tv. Now tell me, so now here we are, we're going to New York, we're going to film the second season. Tell me, what are your needs? Because part of this interview is also to do a call to action to those of you who are watching, that you can sow seeds into his next season. You know, he's looking for some sponsors to finish up. It's been, his first season was very, very well received, which is why they're giving him a second one, right? But the reality is that everything costs money, you all know, right? And so we're here also to see how can we help Steve and how can we help you cook some more stuff.
Exactly. Well, you know, the show, just like any type of media, is heavily sponsor driven. And so sponsorships can come by way of a product, you know, a sauce, a spice rub, or a pot or a pan, or, you know, some type of a utensil or food that I can cook with on the show. I'm doing 24 recipes each, so I should say there's 12. I'm going to shoot 12 episodes. Each episode has 2 recipes.
Okay.
So 24 recipes. We're shooting in 3 days, so it's 4 shows a day for 3 days straight. It's a real intense, turn and burn. But you know, the sponsorships can come by way of actual products. They can come by way of, you know, a real estate company, a car dealership. I mean,
a business that wants to promote themselves.
Any type of business that wants to promote itself.
You can be placed on the show.
Absolutely. It can be, you know, Steve Cooks Stuff brought to you by, and then plug in your company. And what we can do is we can create those commercials that when I say, hey, I'm going to put this in the oven, I'll be right back, comes into a commercial. So really the sky's the limit. It's wide open in terms of the types of sponsorships I can do.
Okay, well that's good.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'd just love to talk to anybody that would like to figure it out. And I like working with people to figure out the right way to make my brand work with their brand. It's not just about putting a commercial in there. You know, I'm really, you know, I can come up with funny ways if you want to if you want to make it funny or silly.
Little quips that are.
You want to make it funny or silly, we can do that. You want to be totally serious, like whatever. But we can work with it, and we can come up with a good way to make both sides have a, you know, mutually beneficial arrangement.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So a lot of things to unpack here. Number one is, look, always follow your passions, right? Look, something that turns into just a little thing that happened when he was young, right? Hanging out with family turns into a hobby turns into, here we are, right? He just decides to, I'm going to go out there, answers a Facebook ad, and here we are, second season. The other piece too is that, you know, things do cost, right? We all know, right? Things require some money, and so we want to also always be part of the giver's gain model, which is to sow seeds into things that are great, and you're going to get a return on your money because you're going to get some exposure. So how do people get a hold of you, Steve?
The easiest way is to go to my website, stevecooksstuff.com.
Steve Cooks Stuff, so there's 2 S's there, right?
Yep.
.com, go check them out.
Yeah, on there you've got my contact information, all my social media. I'm active on, you know, TikTok, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of the different socials, which are all part of that whole integration with the sponsorship too. So I'm easy to get a hold of, easy to find. Look forward to hearing from you.